It's Wanda. It's all Wanda.
Yo, what's up, guys? It's Serial.
What's up, guys? It's Reed.
And today we're going to be breaking down Wandavision episode 4. The Easter eggs, the information we saw. This episode was jam-packed full of information. We see this episode from a totally different perspective, which we're going to get to later on the episode. We get lots of new characters, but they're familiar characters, just new characters to the show itself. We kind of get some answers to a lot of things and more little mini Easter eggs and hints here and there to things that are to come, and still some questions yet unanswered that leave us wanting more for next week. Like always, spoiler warning, we're going to be getting into the show and some of the details. So if you haven't watched, please go check that out. And like always, subscribe right here if you're interested in more breakdowns and Marvel information from me and Reed. Thank you guys so much for watching.
So we see the episode open in an unfamiliar location. We're not seeing a Wandavision opening like we have for the first 3 episodes. Instead, we see the Blip, or the return of everyone from the original Thanos snap, inside of a hospital where we happen to see the daughter of the pilot from Captain Marvel, whose name is Monica Rambeau. She was playing Geraldine for the first 3 episodes before she was kicked out by Wanda at the end of episode 3. It was really cool to see a certain perspective in the real world for the Blip and the type of interactions that people were having while experiencing this crazy event. Also, a little all too real that they overcrowded a hospital for a certain time period that we're in. That was an interesting callback as well.
Yeah, Reed. So after they leave the hospital, we get to Sword headquarters. We've seen the symbol multiple times now throughout the first couple of episodes, so it's nice to finally see the Sword facility that was hinted at the end from Far From Home with Nick Fury in the sky, and we kind of was like, oh, Sword, it's going to happen. It's pretty nice. So we see Monica go into the Sword facility and try to use her credentials to get into the past the door, but we've seen it's been a couple of years since she's been undusted. So her card does not work anymore, and she struggles to get in, but then the new acting director we're introduced to, and Monica seems to know from a couple of years ago, her past working there. It is Mr. Hayward, who is now the acting director of Sword. So we meet the Sword director. They share a joke. They share a laugh. We see there is still Blip news going on all the major outlets in the facility, in the lobby. So it's only been about a little under a month since all the undusting and the Blip and Endgame ended, so it's still very fresh in everyone's mind. Everyone's very happy, of course, to get their friends and family back. But we see Monica and now new director Hayward in the facility. We kind of see what's going on, and they're more in the creating phase of development. He says years out, things have changed than they were prior to. So it's really cool to see the facility. And it was really cool to meet the new director, Director Hayward. And then after the new director tells Monica that she's been grounded and she has to stay on Earth because of kind of laws and plans that her mother implemented when she founded Sword and helped build it, she has to go out on this recon mission to help the FBI. And that's where she meets Agent Wu, who is from Ant-Man and the Wasp, who we've met. Very fun, lovable character. And they use this recon drone to try to figure out what's going in when Wu kind of hints that something in this Westview town is going up. And this is the drone that we see in episode 2, but it looks a little different, as well as a couple of other objects throughout this episode, just kind of basically telling us if something goes into this force field, it kind of changes to that time period and doesn't exist the same way. And if it wasn't already kind of invented or existing, then it doesn't exist anymore and kind of alters its shape. And after the drone kind of disappears through the force field, Monica reaches in, kind of tying into how her and her mother and Captain Marvel were like and always want to explain and go further. And she goes a little too far, reaches in and gets sucked into this force field, and Wu is left alone and with more questions than he had initially.
After Monica's disappearance, we now see Darcy, the character from the Thor movies, the astrophysicist. She's called by Sword to try to help break down everything that's going on here in Westview. She's introduced to Wu and the director of Sword and she notices that there's a sort of frequency, and she somehow figures out that there was a TV show going on. And then we finally start to break down who exactly is in this town. We start to get the names of people. We get names of almost all the neighbors, as well as Wanda and Vision, of course, except for Agnes, which we kind of felt that there's something else that's going on with her for the show, as well as the blonde neighbor. For some reason, we're still not sure why she wasn't mentioned, but she was also not identified. We cut to the whiteboard where Wu seems to be writing down different questions that people are raising for the situation that's going on in Westview as far as the sitcom as well. We also see on the whiteboard the word scrolls is written down for some reason. Maybe it's just a little Easter egg just to mention to us that they're still in the world and there's something going on. We have heard that the new Nick Fury show would probably mainly focus on the scrolls, as well as the new Captain Marvel show with all the Captain Marvel fan service that we got in this episode, especially with, of course, the daughter of Photon, the pilot. We also finally get another perspective of the radio scene from episode 2, where Wanda and the HOA, the head of the HOA, the blonde lady, are having their discussion, and Wu is trying to communicate with Wanda on the radio. We see Darcy watching the show, sees that the show cuts right when Wu is starting to communicate with Wanda. At first, I was wondering whether or not a higher power is in control and is like trying to hide stuff from maybe Wanda or whoever would be tuning into the program. We also see that while people were trying to find different ways to infiltrate the force field of Westview, we also see that the beekeeper was actually a guy in a hazmat suit to because he was time redacted, I guess, based on the type of clothing he was wearing. I guess the hazmat suit wouldn't have carried over, so it turned into a beekeeper suit. The metal line behind him actually turned into a jump rope, which is pretty funny to see. It was really cool to see all these gaps being filled in for us that we wanted to know like from the start of the show. And it's sort of like offering the same perspective as the viewer being the sword agent and trying to figure it out scientifically. So I thought that that was really cool.
We see that Monica's on the ground. She's safe. She's kind of, she kind of says, Wanda, Wanda, it was Wanda. And then we see it cut to Vision walking in the door asking about Monica. And it's Vision's like lifeless corpse with the stone ripped out of his head, the white, blank, dead eyes. And even Wanda herself is like taken back and scared. And it draws you to the question of earlier on the board with Wu, is Vision dead? I think even Marvel is trying to make us think of all the different possibilities that it could be, and we 100% don't really know. I mean, so many, Wanda could be using her powers. So many different things could be happening, and I'm sure we'll get an answer soon, but it's still is just leaving us wanting more. And it was really cool to see him in his in-game version. Sad, but also cool just to see that different side of Vision. Again, it's only been a month, so it's fresh in her head. Timeline-wise, it's supposed to be fresh in our heads as well. And Vision, even himself, looks kind of scared and puts on a smile, like he himself is kind of playing along in a role that doesn't feel right to him.
As far as for the next few episodes coming up, it's scary to see how lost Wanda seems. She's really dedicated and not letting this world fall apart, no matter how ugly it's seeming to get. Is starting to look terrified of her. He's too smart to not see the things that are going on and the things that are wrong with the world that has been built around him. I also have a weird feeling about the director of Sword. I don't know. He was just giving me kind of villain vibes. He's a little too clear cut for the job. I don't know. We'll see though. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this episode of Breaking Down WandaVision. Catch us back here next week. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate you. And this week's shout out goes to Christopher Reed, Reed's father. Thank you for the continued support and watching our weekly breakdown videos. We appreciate you, and we appreciate you all. Don't forget to comment next week for your chance for a shout out. Thank you guys so much.